Holy shit. Hello everyone, yes, we're going to be talking about Invincible. The finale just dropped, so we're going to be diving into the good, the bad, even though there's barely any bad, along with discussing the season as a whole. So if you are new to the channel, do consider hitting that subscribe button, hitting that like button, and if you've seen the show, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. In terms of this video, it's mostly going to be non-spoilers. So for the show overall, like I said in the introduction, like a holy shit type of moment, this show was absolutely incredible, and it really is incredible. Like in terms of like animated shows, like we're getting Bad Batch, we're getting X-Men animated series, we've got the Invincible, like it's just peak when it comes to Wednesday with all the episodes dropping for these different shows, and this one just didn't let up. It's an incredible show. Like I hated the fact that they split the season, so you had 4 episodes in like October, November I think it was, and then 4 episodes now, so just having that split I really wasn't a fan of. But I'm honestly just glad that we're able to get this and building up for like what's to come, because this show is just incredible in terms of like the storytelling, in terms of like the build up to everything that they're working towards. Just absolutely incredible. So again, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, because when it comes to this show, you've got a variety of different characters that you can just work with, because I do want to talk about different characters, maybe not the most prominent ones first, but you've got great character writing for different characters. For example, Rex, like what he goes through in the latter half of this show, there's something that happens to him, and again, I'm not going to dive into spoilers, but what happens to him and then his story arc that he goes through, I think the writing for him and his development from the beginning of like season 1 to now is just incredible storytelling. What we get from Donald, because again, if you haven't seen season 1, like check out season 1, because I'm going to be talking about spoiler stuff from season 1, so that's your chance to check out season 1. But what happens to Donald, like the agent that works with Cecil, when he gets killed off in season 1, and then you have that story arc of like what's going on with him and how he's alive, and just the writing with him and the emotional aspects of that, even as it's linking into Rick and the relationship dynamic that he's got with William. I just think that it just works really, really well, and there's a great story moment, there's a great emotional moment with him giving that speech to Rick with William, and just how that all comes about. I think there's some great elements there, because obviously you've got the focus of Mark, and then what happens with him and Debbie and Nolan, and just everything going on with like the main focus on that. But then with the side characters too, you just have brilliant poetic writing for that. So like I mentioned, you've got Donald, you've got Duplicate, you've got Rex, even there's like a story element when it comes to Robot and the girl that gets younger. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but there's just like a great storytelling arc when it comes to the two of them. And of course Immortal too, like these Guardians of the Earth, just even though you don't get much screen time with them, but when they do appear and when they do have the focus on them, there's just some incredible writing that you're so invested with every single character. Maybe you're more invested with certain characters more than others, but every single element in terms of what happens to them, I just think works really, really well, and the writing for every single character just pays off incredibly well. And then of course you focus on the main character. So you've got the situation after what was happened in the first half of the season with Mark and his stepbrother and the situation that happened on that planet. So then Mark has to take his stepbrother back to planet Earth, because their people age quickly, so by the time this kid is older, everybody he knows is going to be generations gone, which I find so incredible and so messed up. But so then you've got this story arc of like Debbie, Mark's mom, having to look after this brother who they name Oliver, which is then you've got this focus of like Debbie learning to like love him, and by the end, by the finale, you've just got this emotional attachment between Debbie and Oliver. I think just works really well, just that balance of like what's going to happen with like Debbie and how she's going to able to look after him as she's going back to her job, trying to get back to her normal life. So there's just some really great elements in there, and granted, I was expecting by the finale to see Oliver be a lot older, but he's still focusing on as a baby. I'm guessing that's going to be paying off in the future seasons, but there's just a really great element of like this family dynamic. You've got Debbie, Mark and Oliver, like the family here, and it's just working really well in terms of like what's going on with them. Some great elements in the finale. Now again, I'm not going to spoil anything when it comes to like the finale, but my God, what a finale that was. Like the focus with Angstrom Levy in there, and just this element between Angstrom Levy and Mark, and then you have got Debbie and Oliver playing into the fold, but it's just not what you're expecting. And it's just, honestly, Angstrom Levy, what an incredible villain he was in this finale. Diving out of the finale for just 1 second, because you do have the focus of the Viltrumite, and you've got the situation with how they're going to fight back with the Viltrumite. So you've got Alan looking into how he's going to try and stop them. A great character Alan is. Like, I loved him in season 1, and then his story arc in the first half, to then him coming back in this half, and like what he does and the setup to what they're going to build in future seasons. There is some excitement going on with that. But you have Anissa from the Viltrumite planet coming in and facing Mark, and honestly Mark just gets his butt whooped throughout this season, like from Angstrom Levy to Anissa. But Anissa, what a presence and what a fight sequence you get with her. Like the fight sequences in this show are just absolutely incredible in terms of like animation style, but wow, this was just incredible. Like everybody was waiting for Anissa to come back, because if you haven't read the comics, as you can see I've got the comics up here, if you haven't read it, she's an incredible fighter, she's an incredible character that you get introduced into this show. And so you don't really see much scenes with her. You get that one fight sequence with Mark, and then she goes back to the Viltrumites, to General Kree. So definitely she's going to be involved more in future seasons, and that build up to what they're going to do with Viltrumites. Granted, because I'm going to talk about it in like the negative aspects, like the Viltrumite situation and the Viltrumite war isn't really a focus on this, because the focus mainly is you've got variety of villains in this season, in this latter half. The main focus is going to be on Angstrom Levy, and so when you get to that finale with Mark and Angstrom Levy, again, a fantastic finale. Like the finales each season when it comes to Invincible are so well executed. Not only just the fight between Mark and Angstrom Levy, but the dialogue that's in there, the writing and the storytelling, and just the emotional heartbeat of this sequence is so well done, that there's so much heart, so much emotion with the finale that I absolutely love. And the references too, like you get some amazing references in this finale, and I'm not going to spoil too much in terms of like what they do, but you get a bit of different comic book characters that aren't involved in the Invincible series that are put through into this finale, and I honestly smiled, applauded when those references were brought up. So again, if you haven't seen the finale, just keep an eye out on those references, because honestly it'll just make you smile from ear to ear. There was even a sequence or a scene when you've got Amber and Mark who are at this signing, this Comic-Con convention, and you had this writer who like does writing in the comic books in World of the Invincible talking about like animation. Like you got this reference of Mark asking this writer, oh, when is season 2 going to come out, and the writer explaining how animation works, how like you cut between different sequences, or like there's a scene where you see animation but nothing's moving, or you've got a character where they're showing the back of his head where he's talking. Just some great little Easter eggs and references that you get while you're watching the show, which I thought was just brilliantly handled and brilliantly done. So overall, in terms of the show, absolutely fantastic show. Once again, an amazing follow-up to season 1, and building up to some amazing things coming for season 3 and season 4 if they are working on it. They did mention that they're not going to be waiting as long as they did between season 1 and season 2, so season 3 is hopefully going to be coming a lot quicker, but I cannot wait for this. My only issue, or my only like sort of negatives that I have got, is like the focus on like the Amber and Mark relationship. I honestly wasn't too invested in it. A character like Amber I'm not really rooting for as much, just because of like her writing and what she goes through in season 1. Granted, she is more tolerable in season 2, and there are times where, I'll be honest, I did feel bad for her, especially because she's got that relationship with Mark. Mark's off going to save the world. Like in the beginning of this part of the season, he's off for 2 months because he's on the planet with Oliver, so she's sort of just at parties in college by herself, feeling alone, which you do feel bad for her. But in terms of like the relationship aspect, like I'm not rooting for this aspect, because you do want to root for Atom Eve and Mark as like the couple. So you've got the Amber and Mark relationship that honestly kind of drags on a little bit, but again, not too much of like a negative in terms of like the storytelling as well, because as I mentioned, the Viltrumites aren't like the main focus. Like you do get Nolan, like Omni-Man, and like what he's doing with the Viltrumite, and you've got his like redemption arc going on now, but that's going to be most likely built up for future seasons, because they're just sprinkled through like each episode, because you've got the last 4 episodes mostly focusing on different characters and different villains in there. And that's what I feel like is a little bit of a negative when it comes to the show. In terms of Angstrom Levy's character too, is that you don't really see him until like episode 7, towards like the end of episode 7, and then you got him as the villain, the big villain of episode 8 in the finale, So that build up towards him, I just felt like could have had more focus on that rather than forgetting about him for like episode 5, episode 6 and other episodes, and then bringing him back towards the end. So there is an issue where there's too much villains or too much plots going on at the same time when it comes to season 2. They're trying to cram a lot of things in there. So once Angstrom Levy does arrive, the battle I wish could have lasted a little bit longer because of the finale. The finale is about an hour long, but halfway through the finale you do focus on other things. So I kind of wish that there was more time spent with Angstrom Levy as the villain and him versus Mark. But again, it's just like a minor nitpick that you've got here, because overall, like I said, this show is fantastic. The writing for Mark and his story arc, especially what he does in the finale, I think it's just peak writing there. So an overall fantastic, enjoyable, entertaining show that you just have to check out. Like I said in the thumbnail, like a holy shit type of show. And as I mentioned in the title of this video, a show that you really need to keep an eye on and be checking out. But again, if you have seen the show, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Did you enjoy it? What are your thoughts and theories about season 3 and beyond? Let me know in the comment section down below. And again, if you are new to the channel, do consider hitting that subscribe button, because we are going to be working on lots of projects coming up in the month of April. So you've got the weekly news episode coming out tomorrow. There's going to be the Parasite Netflix project going to be coming out, along with like variety of movies and shows. So if you do like that type of stuff, do consider hitting that subscribe button. But I thank you all so much for watching. I thank you so much for listening. This is YK Reviews. Peace.